Well, greetings, everyone. We are so glad you joined us tonight, and thank you to all of you who are here with us. We're recording this call so many more can listen to it. And I just have to tell you, I'm super excited about this one because heart disease does run in my family. And this is a very important topic because in America, the number one leading cause of death is heart disease. And actually, I started this whole call after I'd heard Tony's story because it was so jaw dropping. I knew I had to share it. But first, we have Dr. Candace Corson, who is coming on. And I'm just super excited to have her here because she is fantastic at breaking it down for us so we can all understand. So, let me tell you a little bit about her, why you should be listening to her. She is a doctor. She has both her college and medical school degrees from Yale University. She was a family physician and a non-commissioned officer in the U.S. Public Health Service, later entered functional medicine and nutrition. She's the mother of 4 sons, a grandmother of 6. She's been married for 49 years to her husband, George, who was in internal medicine and emergency medicine, and both of them have retired into the wellness movement with Juice Plus and functional foods and Tower Gardens to help people regain and protect their health. And I'm so glad she's here. Dr. Corson, take it away.
Thank you, Nina. It's so great to be here with everyone and with Tony. I'm just getting to meet and I'll get to hear his story right along with everyone else. But stories are important. They are the real happenings in people's lives. And I was just telling Nina earlier today, I remembered one of the greatest things I learned in medical school. And that was this quote from one of our great teachers, quote, "Your greatest teachers will be your patients if you listen." And that's how I started learning about nutrition, was from a patient who had recovered from severe congestive heart failure in a manner which I had never witnessed before. And he had been learning about nutrition, things I did not know. Now, all doctors and nurses and healthcare people are good people. They care very much. They care, they work hard, they try hard to learn on an ongoing basis. And though the nutrition part has been missing for most people in both nursing school and maybe even more so in medical school. That is starting to change. It needs to change fast and catch up with the frontier of science, which is far ahead and where people really need to be in terms of knowledge and practical steps to protect their health and reverse many health challenges that are reversible. But it's just been missing in so many medical school curricula. And I know for myself, I had 4 hours of nutrition education in the whole 4 years of medical school. And it really focused on how many calories you would need to stay alive in the ICU on intravenous feedings only. And that's important. You need to know how many calories to keep someone alive for a while. But the field is so much more advanced. And so the joy is learning about the things that help people be healthier. And as far as nutrition goes, it turns out that the biggest thing missing that's hurting people's health is plants, plant foods, foods that people need to eat and aren't able to access, of high quality and high variety. Because the baseline fact is that there are good germs that we need, hundreds and hundreds of different species of the good ones. And they're not just optional. We can't have longevity or wellness or strength or resilience or a good immune system without these hundreds and hundreds of good species. And we talk about that together being an ecology inside us, or the microbiome, the balance of those good germs. They're easily disturbed, and we tend to disturb them frequently and regularly in our great civilization by overusing antibiotics and by being sick enough that we actually need antibiotics over and over again. But the thing is, as we lose those good germs, we get more and more inflamed, and this injures all the cells and the organs of our body through inflammatory damage and oxidation. And those two things just takes a toll on us. It's too much wear and tear. We're aging before we need to. And so learning about that, liberating ourselves from being so inflamed and getting sick over and over, it's really can we get a greater variety of plant foods in every day? These good germs need to eat every day, every hour. They don't just eat on Sundays. They have to eat all the time, and they're dividing all the time. But as we lose them, we need to feed them. We need to feed the remainder of them whatever's left, the foods they need. And if we don't have those foods, which are strictly plant foods, these guys are vegan. It doesn't mean we have to be strictly vegan, but it means we need a rainbow of plants to feed those good guys. And you can take all the probiotics in the world, but it's not going to help if they don't have the right foods. So the prebiotic foundation is what I'll talk a little bit more later after we hear Tony's story. But prebiotic means the prebiotic is the food that's foundational for the germs, and they can only eat what we feed them by feeding ourselves. So eating a wide rainbow of plants, it turns out, is one of the wisest, most proven ways we can do to get healthier. So I will stop there because I want to hear Tony's story. And thank you so much for being willing to share that.
Well, thank you for that. And we will look forward to you coming back later and expounding on what Tony is going to tell us. I have known Tony Gossett for about 30 years. Is that right, Tony?
About 30
Somewhere
years.
around there. Yeah, yeah. And we were disconnected for a long time and just reconnected probably last December, maybe something like that.
Yes.
Yeah. And so Tony has had an amazing journey since then. And I'm not going to tell any of it because he tells it rather well. And I just want to let him do it. Go ahead, Tony. Oh, and I guess I should tell them who you are. Otherwise, Tony is the COO for CRI and Director of Oilfield Operations for KROH Exploration.
Yep, that's what I do in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Just some things to remember as I'm talking. Remember this health journey. It's a health journey. It's a process. There's no super pill in a bottle that's going to make you well. You have to commit to the process. And it's kind of like a football team. If I love football, especially college football. And there was a study done by Sports Illustrated years ago about the teams that win the most. And they were the teams that have the best offensive and best defensive lines. They will be consistently the highest performers. And I look at Juice Plus and the other supplements I take as building a very strong offensive line, very strong defensive line to keep me healthy, moving strong, and to keep the bad germs away. The one thing that I discovered on this journey, especially with Juice Plus, is you will detox. I will never forget when I started taking it, my body started changing and pain started moving from joint to joint to joint. Then it disappeared. It was just very incredible. And I could actually see the joints enlarging, literally, physically see them doing that. But it was neat when it went away after about 2 weeks, there was no pain there at all. And one of the best things that's happened to me is that it has grown my appetite for fruits and vegetables. I don't consume desserts. And my mother was the best cook in Calhoun County. Scott can tell you that. And she used to make awesome desserts, and we ate out of the garden. But I will eat fruit over anything else right now, and vegetables over anything else. So this is my story. The rumors are true. I have had 6 heart episodes that the hospital recorded, and one it didn't because I didn't go to the hospital. After you've had so many heart attacks, you kind of know what's going on. I've had 4 heart attacks, 2 widowmakers where the doctor will have to check me here, but it's the left anterior descending artery is 100% blocked. The survival rate is 2% to 4, maybe 5%. And I've had 2 other heart episodes, 2 congestive heart failures. And so I've got 12 stents in. And past that point, I just quit keeping count. And I'll never forget, I was in the clinic getting blood work done. And then I was talking with a nurse, and she said, well, Mr. Gossett, tell me a little bit about your story. And I told her she literally left what she was doing, coming through her arms around my neck and said, Mr. Gossett, God has got something special for you. You're not dead yet. And please don't try to set the world's record. Guinness can wait. So you can't. So she told me to stop doing what I was doing. But the timeline is this. Like I said, I moved away from Huntsville in 2006. And in 2017, my life was turned upside down. Um, the company I was working with decided to go a different direction. And so for 2 years, I did different things, odd jobs, and worked as a contracting engineer. And but in 2017, 2018, I got into a very bad business deal. I lost every bit of money I had, all my savings, all my 401k, because that's what I was living off of. And it turned my life upside down. And I lost the fiance I had. You couldn't get any darker. And I went to in 2019, I got a new job in West Texas, and it was with a little company there. But as y'all know, COVID happened in 2020, and COVID they shut down, and so I became very, very depressed, very discouraged, and it was very dark days. But I want to tell you, God is faithful. He'll take care of you. It got to the point where I couldn't breathe. I worked on I lived on a little ranch there and took care of the ranch and the goats and the chickens, which is an adventure in itself. But I couldn't breathe. I could literally not walk 2 steps without having to take a breath. I got to the point where I couldn't sleep. The only way I could sleep literally was standing up, and I would fall asleep and fall over and wake up. And I did that for about 2 months. My ankles had swollen, my legs, calves, even up past my waist. I was carrying a lot of fluid. I didn't know what it was. It was congestive heart failure. And so I go to the doctor after about 2 months, and he says, "Mr. Gossett, you've got some problems here." And I said, "I kind of figured that out. I can see them." He says, "Well, we'll get you taken care of." And he shows me the heart monitor strip. He says, "Here's your heart rate." And I go, "That looks pretty good." And he says, "No, Mr. Gossett, it's not." He said, "Here's your heart, and here's your heart trying to catch up moving all this fluid." So when I got out of the hospital that time, I went in weighing 207 pounds. I came out weighing 168, and that was a week later at the doctor's office. They had pulled 39 plus pounds of fluid off my body. And that's about when Nina called me, because I was actually right past that point. I was running a drilling rig in West Texas. We were drilling 2 wells back to back. And my best buddy in Texas, Tim, he was a geologist in charge of the geology. He comes out. He says, "Well, let's go to dinner tonight. We're tripping pipes." So we go into town. We're sitting there, and I start feeling just bad. And I know what's coming. I didn't have any tingling in my arms or the other associated things, but I knew what was coming. I said, "Tim, I think I'm having a heart attack. We need to go." And so we just dropped everything, went to the hospital, and I get in there, and the pain went away because I had several people praying for me. And I was going to get ready to leave. The doctor said, "No, you need to stay." He said, "We don't see anything on the EKG, but I want to check your enzymes." Well, my enzymes went from 3,000 to 34,000 in 2 hours. He said, "You're definitely having a heart attack." And it just didn't show up on the EKG. So they stented me the next day. I go back to work that was on a Sunday. I go back to work on the rig on Monday. And then I get back home, and that's when Nina calls me and says, because she'd been talking with a very good friend of mine named Kim Piner. And Kim had shared with her what was going on, because I'd asked Kim to pray. And I think Nina's part of that prayer chain. And so she says, "Well, Tony, my dad went through some similar things. And this is what really helped him get back to normal." And you have to understand that through these years, I literally was praying to God to die. I couldn't see any reason in living. I had no hope. I had no strength. I would have business meetings around the country and around the world with different groups, with finance groups. And they literally called me after the meeting and would say, "Tony, you need to get to a doctor or something," because I couldn't say 2 words or 3 words without having to take a breath. and it had gotten that bad. The doctor told me, he said, Tony, he said, you have ever been waterboarded? I said, no, sir. He says, yes, you have for the last 6 months or 6 weeks. You've been going through waterboarding. You can't breathe and fluids building up in your lungs. That's what it's like. You think you're drowning. But God has been very faithful, even in the midst of the dark times. I was literally lying on the couch praying, God, I need to hear from you. I need to hear from you. I got to hear from you. And I was crying. I mean, I didn't know I was depressed. And the phone rings, and it's New Orleans Seminary. I hadn't been in New Orleans Seminary in about 25 years. And this precious lady who was in her late 70s and early 90s tells me, well, Mr. Gossett, God put you on my heart. I had a list of people in front of me, and she just said, just call Tony. What's going on? Can I pray for you? And it's through that 5 years, God dropped little things and work that kept me solvent. So God is faithful, and he'll take care of you. But Nina called me and convinced me to get on Juice Plus. And it would, so I got on Juice Plus. Like I said, it took a couple of months to really begin to feel the effects.
And Tony, when did you start on the Juice Plus?
Probably January, February time frame. And it
of
was
this year.
Of this year.
Right.
And
okay.
Remember, I couldn't walk 2 steps without having to stop and take breath. And I would turn my head up so I could get more oxygen in that way. Well, since I moved to Fort Worth, I couldn't work because I couldn't move or anything. Like Nina said, I'm now the COO for CRI, and we hold $2 billion worth of book business on our books right now. I'm also the director of oilfield operations for Crow Exploration, which is a small E&P company in Fort Worth. And I walked and ran 2 miles a week ago and didn't have a problem. Didn't lose my breath, didn't do anything. And I just want you to know God is gracious, and he's good, and he's generous, and he's faithful. And there were people in my lives that kept me afloat. And one of them was Tim, because he would call me and have me come stay with him sometimes just to hang around a person rather than just goats and chickens. And Kim was one of my prayer partners for years and years. And Nina, God used Nina at the right time to meet me where I was at. Just some things I've learned through this whole adventure, because I think living life with Jesus is an adventure. Sometimes it's trying, but it's an adventure. Things I learned, it's a process. You don't get better automatically. You have to take certain steps to get better. Know your body. I get a blood panel done basically when I go back to the clinic once every 2 months. They pull blood, do a complete panel, tell me what's going on, tell me the markers, know what the markers are that's important for you. And tell the doctor if something doesn't work for you. They prescribed metoprolol for me after the first Widowmaker, along with statins. And the metoprolol, my blood pressure is normally between 90 and 100, usually in the low 90s. It's low. My blood pressure is normally low. So give blood pressure medicine on top of that, you turn into a zombie. I'll never forget going to for the checkup. The PA looks at me. She brings the machine in, measures, says, Mr. Gossett, your heart rate can't be this too low. The machine must be broken. She goes, gets another one. It reads the same thing. She says, you should be dead, sir. Your blood pressure cannot be that low. And I told her, I said, listen to me. I told y'all this is what metoprolol does to me. I cannot take it. So therefore, please don't give it. So they did away with it. But you have to be your own body's champion. You can't rely on anyone else. You have to understand your own body and be your own champion. And I still continue to amaze the doctors with low blood pressure. It's kind of fun to have fun with them. I will tell you this: avoid statins. New studies have shown that statins are precursors to Alzheimer's and dementia. And they're precursors to type 2 and 3 diabetes. There are other ways to handle your cholesterol. don't eat bad stuff is one good way. And it also saps CoQ10 out of your cells, out of the mitochondria, which are your energy base. So I avoid statins. I don't even take them. They prescribe them to me. I just don't get it filled. And I don't have any issues with it. I do believe I take a lot of garlic because garlic thins your blood. I take I take 2 aspirin in the morning. Also take vitamin E, which helps thin your blood. And there's some other things, hawthorn and other things will help thin your blood. But if you don't have a good, strong base, and that's the reason I love Juice Plus, I get all my veggies and fruits and good stuff, and I get a firm, strong foundation. Read the labels. You are what you eat. If you don't read the label, you'll be shocked at what's in food. Do not eat anything with high fructose corn syrup. I wish I had the picture, Nina, to show everybody of a mouse that was fed high fructose corn syrup and a mouse that was just given regular sugar. The mouse on high fructose corn syrup looks like a mutant. It is about 7 times larger than that mouse. It looks like it could whoop most cats and never blink an eye. I wouldn't want to meet it in a dark alley. It was just huge and looked bad. And so when I saw that picture, I cut out high fructose corn syrup. In fact, I drink very little soft drinks. Aspartame will kill brain cells. So I drink a lot of water and lemon juice. When I do drink things, I drink drinks that have organic sugar because I read the labels. If I can't pronounce it, I don't want to put it in my body. Europe won't introduce red and yellow dye into their food. They just don't allow it. And as the doctor alluded to, most doctors don't have a whole lot of training in nutrition, because I have personally asked all the PAs and doctors I've been with, how many courses did you have in nutrition in college and medical school? And they'll tell me 1 to 2. And as she said, that's changing because people are realizing, and the medical schools are realizing, they need a very firm foundation in this. Eat the good stuff: veggies, fruits, meat, and honey. Red meat is not near bad for you as they say it is. Avoid sugar. Sugar is inflammatory. I get my sugar through fruits, and that's basically it. Like I said, and the last thing I want to tell you is you will die someday. Trust me, I faced this at least 7 times in my life since 2000. First heart attack was 2007. Since 2007, I faced death a number of times. Never forget, I was sitting in the hospital in Lafayette, Louisiana, and the doctor said, I know there's stuff wrong with you. I'm going to go in and cath you tomorrow and dye you and see what's going on. I don't know what it is yet. And he thought it was a heart attack and heart issues, but he didn't know. And I just asked God for one thing, that was to see my daughter before I passed. But I said, God, if I don't, that's fine. I'm fine with you. And it's like Jesus walked into that room. I have never had a peace since that point in time, or before that point in time, that I had that day with Christ in that room. I've never had it. It's just the peace that passes all understanding. You will die. So I want to encourage you to the bottom of my heart to know your destination, because that's the one thing we all have in common. We're going to die. And I want to leave you with 2 words. They're Hebrew words. They're called, is my life verse. It's called Rapha Yadah. And it means this in Hebrew: cease striving in what you're trying to do. Let go, and he will heal you and invigorate you for his cause, that you may know him ever more intimately. And you all know the verse is Psalms 46:10, the part A, basically when it's broken at the comma. That's what that verse means right there. So be still and trust God. Know your destination. Nina, I'm through, and I think you got some minutes for questions. I'm sorry I talked so long. So
That's all right. I'm actually going to turn it back over to Dr. Corson. Tony, thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Oh,
That
you're
is quite
welcome.
a remarkable story, and I know it's going to help many people. Dr. Corson, what do you want to say to what Tony has just told us?
Well, I'm just so glad, Tony, that you've got these great years, these great moments of life, and perhaps a lot of it ahead of you, and living joyfully and living gratefully, it sounds like. And you've gained so much wisdom, and I can see you share that because you care about people. There's something that Nina had shared with me that you had written that I just love. I want to just read it very briefly. You had shared a quote by Moses ben Maimonides, the great
Yeah, yeah.
physician and rabbi years and years ago. And this is the one sentence that I think is so wonderful. Quote, "No disease that can be treated by diet should be treated by any other means." End quote.
Yeah.
Isn't that powerful?
Oh,
It is
I love
powerful.
that.
Yeah, my father was a scientist and he loved Maimonides and often quoted Maimonides. That's a wonderful quote. And of course, Hippocrates said, "Let food be thy medicine, let medicine be thy food." And so this is a wonderful story. I mean, the role of stress is there too. We could probably do a whole other talk on that, and
Mhm,
the role of relationships and caring community and
Yeah.
prayer, the connection
mhm.
of people in a loving manner is all important. I think that I remember that Dr. Mitra Ray, one of the great health educators in the world, has said that Juice Plus itself, which is functional food, foundational food on purpose, made from it is plants,
Mhm,
concentrated plants. Juice Plus is love in a capsule. I love
mhm,
when she said that from main stage of conference some years ago. Juice Plus is love in a capsule, the love of our creator, the love of the farmers, the plants that are being grown so gratefully and so cleanly and harvested for helping people. I like to say from pregnancy through old age, this nutrition is foundational for repairing the foundation that we have, our earthly body. So I just love what you've shared. And I think if people want to learn more, there's so many great resources. So ask the person who shared this with you if you're interested in seeing the many, many scientific studies on Juice Plus. It is the most researched nutrition product in history. There are now 48 university peer-reviewed published studies that are not done by the company. 48 is a record number, and there are more in progress. And these touch on the health of the brain, the function of the brain. Many of these are cardiovascular physiology studies, and of course, immune system and inflammatory pathways and tissue repair and lung function. The list goes on, but I think my favorite is our informal study, but very large one, the Healthy Start for families, where a child can be attached for free to any adult's order. It's usually their mother or father, but it can be grandmother, grandfather, uncle, aunt, older sibling, or loved one in that circle of friendship. And that is now 4 million families have been through that wonderful program, including mine and now my son's children. So that's
Mine
Healthy
too.
Start, and that goes from age 4 up to the 26th birthday. A child in that age range from age 4 to 26 can be added for free to that person's order of Juice Plus. I just love that, and that's how I came into this whole endeavor, was through that, to rescue my sons after their school had introduced vending machines to their life 5 days a week, all day long. Big change occurred. It was not good. Not only my kids, but all of them, it really deteriorated in their health because their intake of food changed. And just what you were saying, Tony, your tastes changed in a great direction. Well, it happens the opposite direction too. As they were getting Reese Cups and Twix and Pepsi every day, their germs changed, and that feeds a different kind of germ that is not a good germ. And those germs really dictate our tastes. The pediatricians call that metabolic programming. So as that changed rather swiftly in the first week or so, it only took 4 months for my 15-year-old to develop exercise-induced asthma, which he never had a trace of, and my 13-year-old to develop moderately severe acne on his back, his chest, his face, and asked me for antibiotics. Can you write me a prescription for antibiotics, please, Mom, like my friends are taking for their acne? And that's when I knew I needed help for my kids. And that's when I found Juice Plus and this wonderful Healthy Starts program. So we're just very glad to share this information. People can learn so much more at their own interest level. And there are at least 4 resources that I have listed for those who are healthcare people or people just who are interested in that aspect of the research and documentation. But there's a flipping book where you can just flip it's beautifully done online summary of the research. There's the Juice Plus Science Institute. And there is a summary of the research on the website of the person who shared this with you. So there's also Dr. Du Bois put together a spreadsheet with links into the literature so people can just click and read the entire article. So we have the resources. I think it's a matter of people being inspired with something that matters to them. And I think, Tony, you've really inspired us tonight. So I just want to thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. So I'm going to stop this recording now, and our guests are going to get the opportunity to ask questions. But for those of you who are watching this later, do talk to the person who sends you the link for this and see what you need to do that might help with your heart health. So thank you for joining us.